issued our Biden family reports in 2020, we used information from these very same type of documents. And you know what? We were criticized by our Democratic colleagues for doing so, and for years they ignored the evidence of the Biden family criminality. I don't think my colleagues can have it both ways. Senator Cornyn.
General Bondi, 6 out of 10 Americans say they live from paycheck to paycheck. And I'm sure that includes a lot of federal employees, Border Patrol, FBI agents, people who support them, frontline prosecutors. Do you find it somewhat inconsistent that our Democratic colleagues claim to support law enforcement and the rule of law, but yet they vote to deny those same individuals the pay which they've earned?
Yes, Senators, our law enforcement agencies, DEA, ATF, FBI, U.S. Marshals, and all the other federal agencies, Homeland Security, Treasury, all the agencies, all of my federal prosecutors, all of our employees are working tirelessly, national security, around the clock to keep this country safe and to keep this world safe. Yet, the Democrats voted to shut the government down, and they are out there working without a paycheck, with families at home, risking their lives every single day. Thank you for pointing that out, and thank you for caring, Senator Cornyn.
So let's get back to some basics. The Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Applies to all Americans, the entire country. Federal law, likewise, applies to the entire nation, does it not?
Yes, Senator.
And so when federal law enforcement agents go to cities like Chicago to enforce federal law, they are acting within their authority, are they not?
Yes, Senator Cornyn.
So on what legal basis would a governor or a mayor say, we're going to deny or prevent a federal law enforcement agent from enforcing federal law? What would be the legal basis for them to do that?
You know, Senator, there's not one. And as I stated, there were 571 homicides in Chicago last year. And that's why right now Director Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche are on their way to Chicago. I've been to Memphis. They're in Chicago right now to protect the people of Illinois. And what Senator Graham, the point he was trying to make earlier, was that when you don't cooperate with law enforcement, if I was a TDA member, if I was a Sinaloa cartel narco-terrorist, you know where I'd go? Chicago, because they're not enforcing the law. And they're running their operations, as I stated earlier, two of the biggest terrorists, narco-terrorists, we arrested right in Chicago because it was a safe haven for them. And they're operating these networks around our entire country. So we are going to keep our entire country safe. We're going to protect all Americans. If these senators aren't going to vote to open our government, to let these people, our people, work with paychecks, they're going to do it anyway, whether or not the locals are cooperating with them. We're going to be there protecting all Americans in this country, Senator Cornyn.
I find it, the comparison between the nation's, Washington, D.C., here in the nation's capital, where the mayor has welcomed the federal law enforcement agents, which as I travel around the city, are providing a level of deterrence against crime that I have not seen before. And Washington, D.C. happens to be one of the most dangerous metropolitan areas in the country. So seeing what the response has been by local officials here in Washington, D.C., seeing how the public here who visits here as tourists from Texas and elsewhere, how they're welcoming this federal law enforcement presence, it strikes me as a stark contrast between what we've seen in places like Chicago. And I just don't understand how elected officials who are sworn to uphold the law and the Constitution of the United States could take the position that, no, we don't want a safer community in our major cities that have a high level of crime, like Chicago. Doesn't it strike you as bizarre?
Senator Cornyn, I don't understand it either, because we've been working hand in hand right here in D.C. with Mayor Bowser. She has been an incredible partner at making D.C. safe again. We've been working with her, we've been working with the police chief, we've been working with their staff, and the numbers speak for themselves. 3,156 arrests, 294 illegal guns seized. I think the number's probably higher today. Carjackings down 87%, violent crime down 45%. Right here in the nation's capital. I've been out there countless times before they go out on the streets, and I'm watching the DC Metro Police. I'm watching them with the Transit Authority Police, who of course keep our metros safe. I'm watching them with our DEA, FBI, ATF, U.S. Marshals, Treasury agents, and HHS has even provided doctors out there to help the team. And what they are, they're a team, and they are working hand in hand. If you couldn't see their shirts on their insignia, you wouldn't know what agency they were with. I've truly never seen a partnership like that in my career, and it's working together, and that's what Illinois is refusing to do. And I wish these senators, I wish Senator Durbin would condemn the governor of Illinois and have him work with us like we're doing now in Memphis. We have the governor of Memphis. We have our two great U.S. senators in Memphis. We have the mayor of Memphis, the same, the chief, working hand in hand there.
Last week, maybe the week before last, I lose track of the days, we had the head of the Metropolitan Police Union for the District of Columbia here, and I asked him about violent crime in our communities. And I asked him whether there was a straight line from the open border policies of the Biden administration, which helped facilitate the cartels from exporting their poison to the United States, only to then find it distributed by criminal gangs who then engage in violence in our communities, like Chicago, to protect their territory and the profits that go along with that illegal drug trafficking. But I want to ask you about another aspect of the open border policies, and that has to do with one of the least reported tragedies and scandals associated with the Biden open border policies, and that has to do with the 500,000 children, sometimes called unaccompanied children, UACs, 500,000 children that the Biden administration allowed to be placed with sponsors in this country that were largely unvetted and subjecting them to who knows what, and then abandoning them by taking the position that it's not the federal government's responsibility, it's local child protective agencies that have to follow up on these kids. So they couldn't tell you whether they were being trafficked, recruited into gangs, whether they were going to school, whether they were getting the health care that they need. They couldn't tell you because they didn't care. So I know that President Trump's administration, the Department of Justice in particular, has located 22,000 of these 500,000 children. Could you talk to us a little bit about your efforts to rescue these children that had been abandoned by the Biden administration?
Yes, and Senator, thank you for asking that question. President Trump cares deeply about our children of this country and children from around the world. This is horrific what has been happening in our country. Law enforcement has arrested approximately 458 sponsors. Now, what these sponsors are, they lie to ORR, many of them, to have an unaccompanied alien child. Some of them later exploit and abuse these children. They're not parents, they're not guardians, They're coming into this country, they were coming into this country without any ramification across the Mexican border until Donald Trump became president again, and that's when it stopped. We are doing everything in our power to find and arrest these people who are exploiting these children and find these children throughout our country. One of those cases, we charged a Guatemalan national unlawfully residing in Cleveland with lying to government because he became the sponsor of a young girl, and of course we found he was later sexually abusing her. That's one of many cases, Senator Cornyn, that I can talk about. And Donald Trump will not rest until all of these sponsors are found and these children are found and protected.
Thank you.
Senator Klobuchar.